Hi there. In this project, we are going to. Oh, first of all, welcome to my channel once again. And in this project, I brought you a very interesting, something interesting that we are going to work on together. So the first thing is, I wanted to show you first of all what the application is will look like and what it will do. So let me first of all run the code. So it would be something like this. So what makes this application different is that we are going to apply the concept of object-oriented programming. So OOP is what we are going to use in this case. So we are going to have to, now this is what the application is going to do. And then I'm going to then explain to you the concept that we used. So what is going to do? We are going to be able to list. We are going to be able to create devices, display devices, search for device, update device, delete device, and count total device we have in the system. So that is what it's going to look like. We're going to create like an application that we could use to record inventories. Usually the, let's say, devices we use in an office environment. So what we intend to do is to have like in terms of the OOP, to have the main class with attributes that other classes are going to inherit from. So we are going to have the main class. So the main class, so first of all, let me start by creating a file that we are going to use. Let me call this file. I'll just go on and call it uh, devices because it is Python file, so it has to end with the py obviously. So now let me just go on and start. As I type, I'm going to be explaining what I'm doing. So now, what I intend to do is, first of all, let me import some modules that we're going to use. So the first module I want to import is called, I like to use this module called, is it Tools? This module can be used in various ways or could be used to do so many things. But what I intend to use this module for is to use it to keep track of the devices we are adding we are adding to our inventory system. So you are going to see how this is going to work. Another one is we are going to use the date, date time. Where is it? Import date time. We are going to use this also to record when the items are recorded in the system. So we need these two modules. There are other modules that we might need as time goes on, but at this moment, these are the things that we need. So now let me start by creating the classes. So this will be the main class. From this class, other child classes are going to inherit from this. So in total, we are going to have three classes. So this main class and then two other classes so that we can apply different concepts of OOP. So let me go on and call the main class. Let me call it device. Let me call it device. So like I said here, we are going to have all the attributes that the child classes are going to inherit. So here now we are going to make use of the ITA tools which we just imported. So to how to use this is this. Let me first of all type. I'm going to call this ID. You know what? Let me call this device ID. I'll call it device ID and then use the count. So what I intend to use this for is this. So we are going to use this. Um, we are going to use this ID to create kind of a unique ID for each device we add to the system. So what I intend to do is to start from 1,000. I could start from wherever I want, but I just intended to use it this way. So what I'm going to do is that when we add the first ID, the first device to the system, the first device is going to have the ID of 1,000. The next one, 1,001. The next one, and so forth. So I don't just want to start from, for example, from one. So I could start from there. It doesn't really matter. But this is the way I just chose to do it. So another thing we need to do is this. And another important thing to point out is that this attribute here is class attribute, which means that each device we add to our system is going to inherit this very, or is going to have inherit from this class attribute. Is different from, say, object attribute, which is applicable to each object we add to the uh, we create using the class. So each each device each device is going to inherit this. So that's why we call it a class attribute. So you are going to see the difference as time goes on. So what we need to do now is to create our first um, init method. No, I don't want to use it this way. Let me undo this. Init, and so this should have self, and then so the attributes we are going to have here. I first of all want to have, say, type, device type. So in terms of device type, how I want to kind of separate these the child classes is we are going to have one class which we are going to call network. So this network class is going to be something like firewall, something like a router, all these things you use in networking. The other one is going to be called computer. The other child class is going to call computer. So that computer is going to be like a laptop, like a, desktop, all this kind of stuff, maybe monitor. I know that all of these things are used in networking in general, but I just wanted to just separate it this way for easier understanding. So the device type is going to be either something related to networking, which is again router, firewall, and all the stuff like that, load balancers, or computers. So let me continue. So we are going to have the device type. We are going to have the maybe the model of the device. We are going to have maybe producer of the device. If it's, for example, IBM or Palo Alto or stuff like that. We are going to have what else we want to have here. We are going to have a date when the device got added. We are also going to have a name of the device, which let me just, this doesn't really matter, but let me have the name uh, come first. Let's have it this way. The name, the device type, the model, the producer, and then the date when it was added. So, oh, let me first of all. So now let me continue by self.name. So what we are doing now is to, so self.device, device type, device type, self.model, module self dot producer producer, and finally self dot date. We have date. So another thing we need to add here is we are going to make use of this class attribute. We are going to add it here so that each object is going to generate its own device ID. So how we do this is let's say self dot ID, then next, which means it's going to, whenever you create it, creates like next ID, stuff like that. So because it's class attribute, so we're going to call the class, because the class that owns this attribute is device. So we're going to call device dot, then the name of the attribute, which is device ID. So this is what we need for our main class. And having this function, let's create another the string function that we can use to display these attributes in string form, in readable form. So how we do this is let's start again by creating our to define our function. So let's say this is string, and then obviously self comes first. After self, then we have to, no, this is not, don't need this yet. So what we need to do now is to return all these attributes. So let's format it. Let's start let's format it. So let's say device, let's start by listing the device ID, and then which is self.id. Then device name. Device name would be self.name. The next thing we have is a device type. Device type is self.device type. The next thing we have is a the model. So let me, you know what? Let me bring it down here. So the next thing we have is we already have a device type. So let's also get our device model, which is device model self.model model, and producer. Here we also have our no, self.producer producer date. Maybe we can say let's say date recorded, which is the date the item got recorded. So for this we have our date self.date we have here. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, because I had to get to the next line, so it was giving us that error. So this is what we have here now. So like I said, we have our class attribute, and then we kind of also added it to our object attribute so that each of them could inherit it. And then, so this is what we need at this moment for the main class attribute. So other things we are going to do now is to write some functions that are class functions, which each of the which all of the objects are going to uh, could be used on all of the objects. That's the next thing that we are going to create now. After that, when we start creating each individual child class, for example, we are going to also have like a different uh, we are going to overwrite all these functions that we have here now in order to write or to add other attributes that are very specific to other to the child classes. So what we need to do now here is let me just go on and write one more function here. So the function I want to write now is the function that we could use to search uh, our device, should I say, application or our device inventory to find if, to search to see if we can find what we added to the inventory, right? So basically, what I'm trying to do is after we added something, we should be able to search the inventory to find if the item exists or not. It's just as simple as that. So what we need to do here is let me define another function, and then this function, let's call it search. Uh, let's call it search device. So for this, we are going to have, because like I said, this is a class function. So we are going to have this instead of self. We are going to have this. So this is like class, short form for it. So now we are going to have like a list later on where we are going to add all of these devices. We are going to have a list. So if the name of the list is going to be device. Let's just give it this name, device list. And then we are going to search by device ID. So we are going to be searching based on this ID that is going to be generated with this. So now let's call it device ID is a good name for it. And then first off, another thing we need to do, because this is a class function. So what we need to do is we are going to add this here, class. Uh, so yeah, class method. We are going to add a class method here in order to Uh, I mean, just to show that it's class, it's used on the class and not on the objects itself. So now, so what we need to do here, because we have this list that we are going to create where the items or devices are going to be added, what we are going to do now is to loop through this list to find out if the ID exists or not. So how to do that is, we are going to use the for loop and say, let's say device, for device in the device list. For device in device list, we are going to loop through all the devices. Once we do that, we then say if device ID, the device ID we're searching for, device ID equals to the device ID that user, the existing device ID, which is this one. If it is equal to this device ID that the user added, device ID. So what we do, we return the device that exists. We return it if it exists. Otherwise, we return none, which means it does not exist. So this is our first class method that we are going to use. So the next one we are going to create another class method is delete uh, method. So this one we will be able, if it exists, if an ID exists, we should be able to delete it. So in this case, let's say define, let's also call this one delete device. I think it's a good name for this, delete device. So because it's a class method, we can also use this, and then the device list again, which I've already explained earlier, and then the device ID that the user has to type in. So we also need to make this class method, just like the other one. So now, device, no, this should be device ID. Okay, so now we first of all look through for, I don't know, let's say X. You could just use anything here. I'm just using X. For X, device in enumerate. So this easily allows you to look through the list. So to look through the list you want to look through, the enumerate allows you to do that easily. So we look through it. So now, if device ID, as we explained earlier, if device ID that the user type in is equals to the device list that we look through. Oh, sorry. If the device ID is equals to the existing device ID, which was created by default, matches device ID entered by the user. So what happens? What we do is we use the del you use del to delete the device list, and then the X. We delete the ID. Like I said, this X, I just use X, so anything could be used there. And then return true, which means that it existed and that is deleted. But in case the ID that the user typed in does not exist, what we do, we return false because it doesn't exist. So that's as our other class method. So another class method we could use here is one used to update. We should be able to update our devices. Maybe if something changes about the device, let's say the name got changed, for example, so we should be able to change it. So that's the next thing we are going to create. So uh, the next function I want for us to add is one we could use to maybe display all the devices we have added, both the network devices, both the computers. So let's do that again. This is going to be also a class method. So let's call it if, and then let's call it display devices. Display devices. So because it's class, let's also use this, and then this device list where all the items are listed. So what we do here is, this one is going to be quite a very simple method, so function. So what we need to do here is, if not device list, so if the device list is empty, just as simple as that. If not the device list, so what we do, we print, let's print no device to display if there is nothing in the device list. But what if there is something, if there is a device in the device list? So what we do is we print something like oh, if there is something, we could print something like here where, or let's say these devices are in the system. So if there is something, so this is the kind of a header, and then we then look through the device list. So for that we can say for device in device list, so print the device. So with this, we are going to print all the devices that the device or all of the devices that exist in the list. So that's why I said that this function is quite simple. So first of all, it checks if it's empty. If it is empty, we get this. If there is something, then we have this header, and then we look through the device list, and then we print everything. So that's what this is used for. So the next function, this also we can just make this like okay. So the next thing we want to do, it's very important to be able to update the information we have. Let's say you got a device added into the system, and then you want to change something. Maybe there was a mistake or there is new update. So you should be able to do that. For that, what we need to do is let's create another, call it update device, update device. And then obviously it's class method, and then the device list where all the devices are listed, and then the device ID because you're going to find this device by its ID. So you have the device ID. So we look through the device first. For let's say for device in device list, we look through, and then if device ID in the system matches the device ID entered by the user, no, device ID entered by the user, so it's going to pull out that device. So in this case, what we do here is we ask the user for what pieces of information they want to update. So in this case, we're going to just choose a couple of things. So what we want to update would be, let's say, uh, let's just call it new device name. Assuming the person wants to change the name of a device, for example. New device name, we ask for input, and type new device name. Type new device name. So the person might also want to change the device, maybe model, new model. So this is just an example. So we can just choose whatever we want the user to choose. It's possible that a model is, it's not necessary. You can't change a model of, okay, let's just keep it simple. I was just saying that once you add a model of something doesn't existing device, you probably don't want to change the model because the model remains, but it remains the same. So, but let's just, for the purpose of this project, let's just leave it that way. So the new model, so type new model name. And then we might also want to change what other attribute we have here that we might want to change. So let's say the producer, we want to change the name of the producer, for example. So let's say new producer, and input, type new producer. So Let's just go with these three attributes. So in that case, let's change now the, when we look through, we get each device. So for each device, we are going to add what we just changed now, the new attribute. So we say device, for example, device type, which is the original new device name. Let's say device name, which is the original name. So we change it to new device name, new device name. Then we have a device model, device, uh, we have model, right? Device model, device dot model, model, yeah. So device dot module. So now we have new module. We have finally device producer. Device producer, we have a new producer. So after all these changes have been done, we return true. We return true indicating that it's been changed. Or if it's not, or if it doesn't exist, then we could return false. Return false. So that's another, and this also, let's add our uh, the class method. So these are the functions we need, or the method we need to operate on the class, main class level. So in the next iteration, we are going to start to create the other two classes, the child classes that are going to inherit from a device. That's what we are going to do now. Hi. So let's continue with our project. So the next, we have written a couple of functions here. So the next thing we are going to write now, we're going to write another function. And the function we are going to write now is, it will be a static function. So let me first of all write it, and then we will explain what this function does. So let's start by defining, um, yeah, defining the function, and let's call it count. Let's say count devices. So this function, okay, let's say device, let's call our list here, device list, and then return. We are going to return the length of the total devices we have recorded. So that's what this len does. It counts the list. So let's put in here the argument device list. So that's what this does. And this is going to be, unlike the class methods, this is going to be a static method. So this one, we are going to use it to, when it says static, let me first of all static method. So simply, what this just means by static method is that this function, we can call it by, we don't need to initialize objects to use this method. So we can just call the class. For example, class name here is device. So we could just call device dot count device, for example. That's how we're going to use it. So as you can see, it does not require any object to work. That's what we're going to use this function for. So now we are going to start writing other classes. The child children should I the classes that are going to inherit from this base class, the device. So as I said earlier, we are going to have two child classes, and one of them would be like a network, and the next one is going to be computer. So let's start by writing let's start by writing network, the network class. So what we do here is create a class. Let's just call it network. And then because it's going to inherit all the instances of the device, so we are going to call device here. We call device here, and then we are going to list all the instances that device contains, and then add additional instance here that is related to only network. So which means that the other child class is not going to have it. So something that will make it different from the other child class that we are going to create. So how we do that is we let's start to define, yeah, right, init as we've done in the past. So this will be just identical. You know what? I could just copy all the things we've got here because it's the same as what we've got here. So we could just copy this and okay, we need to add a 12, and then we add this so it carries all of this from the base class. So we are going to add something that is unique to this class. So what I intend to add there, let's say interface so that we will be able to record how many interfaces that each of the devices each of the network devices, say router, firewall. I'm just trying to add this in order to kind of to show the concept. So that's what I chose to add. So let's just say interface. Let's say interface. And then the next thing we are going to, oh, okay, first of all, let's oh, let's see. Okay, let's create the init as we did before, and then we'll call the interfaces again. So this super indicates the base class actually. So what we do here is we just enter all these again. So these are what we inherited from the base class. So now that we've got this, the next thing we do now is I want also to add a list here. So the list that is unique to network. So this list, I'm going to, first of all, let me uh, initialize, remember the interface that we just created. So we need to put it here again, interface. So after this, I'm going to create a list. Self dot. The list I intend to call it, what would be, let's say requirements. Requirements. So these requirements we are going to use to add all the things that we need to configure our network, So that's what we are going to use it for. So like the cables and all the necessary things we need to configure our network. So the only reason I decided to add this is in order to apply different concepts in creating this. So the next thing we are going to do is we are going to make it possible to add these requirements. So what we do is we create another function here, and we call it let's say add. I'm thinking to call it add. Let me just copy this not to waste a lot of time. So let's just call it add requirements. So now that we have add requirements, we call self again, and then let's say requirement. Remember, this is just requirement singular. requirements, and then let's add the requirement that the user is going to add. Uh, uh, we then add the whole thing, we add it into the requirements list. So what we do here is we do the same thing, dot requirements dot append. We use the append method to add the requirements that the user has requirement. So it's very important to take note. If, maybe if you want, you could call this something different, this variable something different, but I just decided to call it requirement, and then we have the requirements plural. So this is very important. So now that we created this, what else do we need to add? Let's see. So what we need to do now, let's first of all create the same thing as we have here. But then we add we added the other attributes that we just added to the network. So what I intend to do, I'm going to copy this and I'm going to overwrite it. When we say overwrite, it just means that we are copying the same information we are writing the same information we have in the base class, but then we are adding other specific attributes. So that's what we are going to have here. So now we have everything, we've got everything here, but remaining would be the interface and then the requirements. So what we do here, I'm just going to, let's just, uh, let me see. I guess what I just need to do, let's bring it down in order to make enough room for this. So what I intend to do now, we have date, so we have to add our interface. So what we do is interface or interfaces, either way, interface and self interface. So we have that, and then we add our uh, what do you call it? We have our we add the requirements now. So I didn't mean to add this. So what we do now is let's say requirements. Let me just copy this in order to save time. But I'm going to change. I'm going to change this. Let's say requirements, and then just a bit quite similar to what you've done. But what we are going to do is to use the join method to put it all together. So what we do here, we just join, no, join, oh, a dot should be here, join, and then we just do the same as what we did with the rest, self dot requirements. So it's just as simple as that. I could go on and maybe bring it down once again in order to show, to make sure everything appears on this the same screen. So that we've got here. So the next thing we do now, we move on to create the next child class. The next child class, let's call it, as I already said, we are going to call the next class, let's call it computer. So this one we use to enter anything, like I said, being it desktops, being it laptop, it doesn't matter. So it's going to inherit also from device as the network did. So we do the same thing. Oh, no, I'm just going to copy this. It will be similar, and then we make the necessary changes that we need. So we just paste this here. Let's see. Okay, this one should. Okay, so now the changes we need to do. So this one I need to add to in order to make it unique also. Just like we use interface here. So what I intend to do here is to use something like inch or inches, so that we will be able to add how many inches each of the say monitor is, for example, or how many inches our laptop is. So in order to just make this unique, that's why I'm doing this. So we add the inches, and then we here we have all the things we inherited from the base class, and then here we add also inches, no, inches and inches, like so. So now we need to change this. So what do we want to add to our to the computer? Just something similar, the same concept as we have requirements here. So what I intend to do here is to add something like components. Maybe I don't know if components is the best. We can just call it peripheral, for example. This will be like keyboard, mouse, and all other things that you need to use your computer and other components that the computer has. So I think a component might be the best word to use here. So let's say components. So we have this list components. So what we do here, we just do the same as we did here. We just make the necessary changes that we need to make. So we just do this. As you can see, it's just almost the same. So what we do here, we add components. Let's say add components, and here okay. Uh, Here we have a component, but single, obviously, not plural. So here we have also components, and here we have our component, which we can use to add the components when we add in our creating the objects. So now that we have these two, what else do we need to? Oh, first of all, we need to do the same exact thing we did here. We do the same thing we did here. Then we make our necessary changes again. So as you can see, I'm trying not to start afresh typing all this, so that as you know, it's going to take too much time to do that. So I think this is our best idea. So now that we have everything, so we just need to change. This will be no, this will be inches. Oh, should be inches. That one, and then here we have inches. This one is components, and here we have components. So what else do we need? Let's see what's going on here. Um, okay, I think we missed this. So it should be fine now. So if you go through this, you will realize that this class is they are both this they are almost identical, just very minor changes. So as we did this, the next, I hope I'm not missing anything here. So Yeah, I believe everything should be all right. So the next thing we do now, we are going to create the we are going to create another um, to make it possible for someone to add devices using application. So what we do now is this. We are going to, first of all, use a while loop. We are going to use a while loop to allow user to choose what action they want to take. So that's what we are going to do next. So let's continue. So like we are going to, as I just mentioned earlier, we are going to start here by creating making it possible for people to use our application using all the functions that we created in all of these in the classes that we have here, three of them. So let's just start by let's use a while loop to ask user to choose what option to use, what to use, or to choose what to do. So what we do here, let's first of all let's go this way. So it's let's say device inventory, or let's call it this. Okay. So now what options do we have? Let's start by asking the user to create let's use one uh, create a should I say create a device or record it? I'll just leave it that way. Create device. So we have the user create a device, or we could have the user, let's say number two. So when they choose one or two, it guides them through. So let's say search, or before then, let's say display devices. If they want to see the list of what is on the what is being what's being recorded. Let's say three. What should this one be? What am I doing? Oh, I can't even type anymore. Um, oh, I was using a wrong mouse. Okay, okay, then. Okay, so I have a display. So now let's search for device. So in this case, the user will type in the ID. If you remember, the ID generated using this is going to the user is going to search using that. So the next thing we have, there are quite about six of them. So the next thing we have is maybe let's say update device, if that's what the user intends to do. We also have delete device. Okay, this one should be five. What else do we do? Maybe I believe we also have one which we could use to count. Is that correct? Okay, to count show total device. Maybe if you remember the one we used to count, maybe let's call it count total devices. If you want to count how many devices we have. So this is the one you use. So I think this is it for now. There is probably something else, but let's just continue with this for now. So now what we intend to do, and the part we are going to write now will be quite both interesting and engaging because it's going to be quite a long code, I should say. So what we do now is we are going to first of all ask the user to choose an option. So let's use option, and then we ask the user to type in an input. So because it's 1 through 6, so it's going to be integer, right? So integer and then input to allow the user to type in. So let's say, oh, yeah, let me choose an option. Maybe let's say 1 through 6. There might be more. I don't know for now. Let's see. Um, I think you know what? Let's just leave it that way. So we choose an option. Then we ask if the option, no, not open, but option. I was just considering if to use this as if this to be like a string. In that case, we just remove the int and use only input. But let's just leave it this way. So if the option is equals to 1, for instance, if you want to use this as a string, all you need to do is just to put this in quote and then remove the int. That's it, all you need to do. But I would just, let me just leave it this way. So if option number 1 is chosen by the user, let me put a space here to make it more readable. So we are going to ask the user how many devices they want to add. Let's say the person wants to add, let's say they have a couple of devices to add. They have firewall, they have a router, they have a couple of things. So they will be able to do all of these things at once. So they will add all of the devices at once. So they don't need to choose one, finish, and then come back to choose again. So that won't be a good idea. I think something is missing here. Uh, let's see, where is it? And input. What's the? Oh, okay. I see it. It should be here. Okay. So what we do, I explained already why we intend to do this. So we're going to first of all ask the user the quantity of the item they want to type in. So in that case, we ask them, we obviously it should be integer. So and then input. So here, let's say how many devices to add, or do you want to add? But let's just make it brief. So the user needs to type here how many devices they need to add. So once the user types in this information, we are going to look through the number typed in by the user. Look through that number in order to make sure that they are able to add all the things they intend to add. So let's use for loop for x in range. Let's use the range method to iterate how many times the user typed in. So this number the user typed in, we are bringing it here. We use the range to iterate through the amount of time. So once we gather this, we are now going to present them with the field to type in the information they need to type in. So in this case, let's say, by the way, here I used X because we are not going to use this variable anymore. So we can just have an underscore there. It works also. So now that we have this, we are going to ask the user to type in, uh, let's say, device type. Basically, all the things we've got here. In order to remember everything, I'll just copy this here, and I'm going to need this. So let me just leave it here in order to remember everything. So we are going to ask them name of the item they want to type in, and then input. So type device name. So we have them type the device name. We have them, I'm just trying to maybe copy this in order not to waste a lot of time. The next thing is device type. Device type. Device type. The next thing we need to do is I paste this here. Okay, you know what? Let me just use it exactly the way it is here without the underscore. So the next thing we ask them the model of the device model, and model. Obviously, as you can see, you can add as many uh, uh, what do you call it? You can add as many variables as you want. No, I don't mean here, but here. The attributes I meant to say, you can add as many as you want. So, but these are enough for what we intend to do here. So now, oh no, we have the next thing we have now, after model, we have our producer, the producer. So after adding the producer, what next do we do? Um, okay, so what we do now is we are going to determine, based on the device type, we are going to determine what the user wants to record in the system. Is it something related to network or something related to computer? Because if you remember, all the attributes we have here are from the base class. So there is no distinction yet if this is like a network related device or if it's computer related device. So now we are going to determine. How do we determine? We are going to determine based on the device type. So now let's check. So if uh, device type. Okay, let's just say I'm trying to see if we should let's just lower it. This making it lower doesn't really matter here, but let's just leave it that way. If device type entered by the user is equals to, let's say, network. If it is equal to network, so what happens? We are going to uh, add additional attribute that network has, which is the interface. Remember. So how many interfaces, for example? So that what we are going to do now. So we are going to ask the user to type in interface, the amount of interface. So let's say interface. So this is the distinction between the two of them. So let's say int, because it's amount. So it needs to be integer. It's like quantity. That's what I meant by amount. Let's say how many interfaces. So the user is going to type in the amount of interfaces. So now we are going to create an object. So what we do now is, um, let's say, because this is network, so let's just say network, and then because now we have determined this is related to network. So now what we do, we call network here, and then we record all the information that the user has just provided. So what has the user provided? So the user has provided name, provided device type, user has provided model, has provided producer, and then the final thing that we need to take note of, remember, we have attribute date. We have attribute date. So we are also going to add it here. So we already have, oh, okay, let's see. Okay, we are going to create, oh, okay. We need to do this here. Let's say today, date time. So we are using the date time. Remember, this needs to be imported here. So what I intend to do is to make sure that the date time, so the user doesn't have to type in the date manually. So we have to create this object here and then add it to what the user has provided manually. So we have this, and then we should have here date. We have date, and then we create a list where we are going to add devices. Let's this a list. So in this list, we are going to add all the objects we are creating now. So we have to create all of these things above the code we are writing now. So now that we have this, so remember, like I said, we already created this here, the date. So what we do, we add it here. So the user doesn't need to add this manually. So now that we did this, what else do we do? We are going to determine, remember, this is network related. So when it comes to network related, there is also this requirements. So we are going to somehow add requirements here. So to do that, I think it's a good idea to ask the user if they want to add oh, let me see how many in. Oh, I can see that we still have not added our interface here. I think the interface comes after. Where is it? Interface under network. We have a interface. Okay, interface. Okay, we can just add it right after the date. We have oh, we should have the interface. So this interface is the interface that the user. Why do I have how many interfaces? I don't understand why I've got two of these. So this interface, we add it here. So now we've added all these. We add it here. Then we have network. So we are creating an object here now. So after this, the next thing we do. Remember, I just mentioned about the requirements. So does the user want to add any requirement? Are there any requirements? It's not a must, but we could ask the user if they want to add something there. So in order to do that, after creating our object, this object, we are going to have, how do we do this? Okay, let's say, I don't know, let's say answer, and then input. We ask the user if they want to add any requirements. Uh, let me just make it short. Any requirements. Okay. We ask the user if they want to add any requirements. So now if, okay, while, let's use the while loop now. While answer, uh, wait, oh, okay, let's just say while answer is no. If answer is no, so what we do, answer, let's just make this dot lower also. So once the answer is no, we break. So which means this loop just ends, right? So otherwise, else, what we do here now, we ask the person for requirements, or requirements, but let me just use it that way. So now the requirement will be, I'm trying to say we don't ask the user the requirements right away. What we are going to do here, use the same logic we used here. We are going to ask the user how many requirements they want to add. Remember, it's a list, so they have the ability to add as many requirements as they want, and so that they will be able to add the requirements at the same at once. So they don't need to add one, go back and add another one. So they will do everything at once. So what we do now, we just use the same concept we use here. So now, let's say, okay, let's continue. Let's see. Ensure any requirement. Okay, yeah. Input. I don't know if I should call this. Okay. Let's say requirements input. How many requirements? We ask them how many requirements they want to enter. So now we use the same for loop. Again, for loop in range. And then we check how many requirements, so that we are going to loop through how many requirements the person needs to enter. So we check how many requirements they want to enter, and then we prompt them to enter the requirements. So now how do we do that? We are going to say requirement, what do I call it here? Because I have already used this, maybe we could use a different word here. Let's say requirement, oh, you know what, let me use response here. Response, and then, so I change this to, so now we are going to ask them, collect the amount of requirements, and input. Okay, let's say enter requirement, because they're going to enter it. So we ask them to enter the requirement. Once they enter the requirement, we are going to add it. Remember, add it to network, the object that we created. We add it there. So what we do now is network dot add requirements. Remember our function add requirements. Where is it? Network, under network. So we are using this now to add a requirement. So what we do here, network.requirement, we add requirements. So that's it here. So what we have now here, the user will be able to add if it's related to network. So the next one we are going to write now is if it's related to computer here. So now we are going to continue With our remaining code, now we have the ability to add a network device. And the next thing we are going to do is similar to what we've done here. So this is to add network device. So what if the user wants to add a computer? So what we do, let's just copy this because we are going to do something very similar to what we've got here. Um, we're going to do something similar. So instead of retyping all this code, let me just copy and paste. Then we adjust it to what we need. So what we do here, let's say, wait, let me paste it first. So what we do here is, let's let's change this to else. Um, wait, else. Let me device type is oh, okay, I was just looking at yeah, this should be if not else. So because it's we have if here, so if device type is computer. So let's change this to computer. So if device type is computer, now we have to accept input of what is relevant to computer or what is unique to computer. In that case, we have inches. So let's change this to inches. Let's say how many inches. So let's say how many inches. So the user, yeah, how many inches? Yeah, this should be integer as well. So here we change this to computer. We change this to computer and change this to computer as well. So now here we add instead of interface we also have inches, right? So after inches, what else do we ask if you need any components? This should be components. Any components, and then we ask if we want to know if the user wants to add any components. So if it's no, it breaks. Else, which means yes. So now we can use also response, or we could use in order to make it less confusing. Let me just use something else here. Let me just say comp. That is component. Uh, components. Yeah. So now we have components, and then we look through the range of how many of components. Um, so here we can say here, let me see. Yeah, we can say here components. Components. And then the components that the user types in, the list of components, we add it here. This should be, instead of requirements, it should be add components. I believe that's the name. Add, add components. Or what? What's the name? Yeah, it's add components. Here we have add requirements. So this should be add. Where is it? Add components. Um, I think there is a mistake somewhere. Add the requirements, add components. Let me see. Computer, here is add components. Let me, we have, oh, this is computer, not network. Computer, because this is the object we created here. So it should be computer because we are under computer, not network. Computer dot add components. Yeah, there you go. So now we add this components as the user created. We add it to this object that we created here. So once it's added, we can then go on and add it to the list devices. So what we do here now is devices dot append dot append uh, append computer. Even though I just realized we also need to do something similar here because we need to add the object we created, network. So this one should be network. We add it to the list. If it's related to computer, we create the object and we just do the similar thing we did there. We just, after doing it, we add it to our list. So this list, remember, we created here. And what else do we need to do? So this is about computers. So we have, this is just about this, to add a device, create a device. So what we need to do now is, let's continue to ask, to use other functions we just created. So here we are going to check, let me see, so if, because this is should be in line with this if, we have number one. So if option now is number two, what should happen? I'm just trying to make sure that it should be there. So this is L if option is 2. So what do we want to do now? So we call display devices. So this is to show the list of devices. So what we do here is, this one will be quite very simple. So what we do here is, let's print something like, um, let's see, how do we do this? No, this should be something like this. We can say available devices. So like I said, this one is going to be very simple. So what we do here is we call the device, which is the base class. We call the device, and then we want to use this display devices. So we just call that we call device dot. We call this display devices, and then we call our list. So the list again, our list to display the information we have there. Devices. This is actually all we need in this case. So what we do now is we check also if option is 3. In this case, what we have next, search. And this one would be, um, let's use the same print here. We use print, we just do a similar thing we did there. Let me copy this instead of retyping because we just change search. Maybe we just say something like search for a device. So what we do here is we ask the user for the device ID. Remember, due to this module, we are able to generate device IDs um, automatically once an object is created. So what we do now is we ask the user, let's say device ID, and let's say int because this is integer, and input. Okay, type device ID. We ask for the device ID. So once the user types in the device ID, we're going to search through the list again. So because the list is class, the function we are going to use here is a class function again. So we have to call the device. So we call device and we call the search device function. And then inside the device function, we call our list. Again, the list we created above. We call the list and then the ID provided by the user, device ID to search. So if you remember the function we wrote related to this, when you go through that, you will see that we have like a we have like the name of the list and then the ID. So once we search for that, so we now check if the device the what do you call it, the device exists. So once we search it, remember I made a mistake here. So we should what do I call this? Because once we search for this ID, we need to assign it somewhere. So in that case, we can make up a variable here where to assign whatever is found. Let me just call it found ID or ID found. So we're going to assign that ID there. So now we check to verify that it really exists. So if that device ID which user typed in, if it is found and assigned here, so we can say if if found ID, then what happens? Let's print something. What we can let's say found device ID, which is what the user typed in. Device ID found. Oh no, it should be. It shouldn't be in quotation mark. The device ID that the user typed in, maybe we say was found with following information. That would be like the header. Then what we can do, we just print out the information related to that uh, found ID, which is what was found, remember. So we just print out the found ID, which was found here. So what else? So what if the ID that user typed in was not found? What should we do? So we can print something. Also, we can say uh, that ID was not found. We can just have this. So this is quite straightforward. So the user types in ID they want to search for. Then we use our function to search for the ID and the list. If once we find if an ID is found, we assign the ID here. Then once there is that ID, we provide this inform or we print out this information and then print out the information found related to that ID or to that device. Else we print this. So that's how this one is going to go. So the next thing we want to do now is let me see what we have. We search and then delete is the next thing we are going to do now. So let us delete device. So we have option 2, option 3. Uh, Let me remove this. I don't need it anymore. So I leave option 4, which is to delete. So what we can do, we could just copy this again to save time. Paste it there, and we could just change this. Delete the device. And then the next thing we do is, so let's first of all ask the user to provide a device ID. So this one is going to also be similar to what we've got here. Okay, type device ID to delete. So let me just call this delete ID just to make it obvious. So once the user types in the ID, so what we do, we search again, just like similar to what we did earlier, if it exists. So let's call device because this function is class function. So let us call device, and then the function I think we called it delete. It's delete device, and let's call the list. Our list is devices. Then we check the delete device, we check the ID provided, delete ID, which the user provided. So now we print the device has been deleted. else if the device that the user title, oh, this one should go in there and should be like this. Else print the provided ID does not exist. Okay, so that's for delete. The next thing we do is count. Do we still have this? I think this one is count, delete, search, display, count. We probably already have available devices, display devices. Let's see what other function we have. Delete, search. We have display devices and count this one. Let's see if we have used it. Okay, we haven't used this yet. So what we can do now is, wait, let's see, count devices. Okay, so we can say, call it 5. We have 4 already. Leave option if it's 5. Let's see. I think we just mix everything up here, but doesn't really matter. So let's check. If option is 5, we can just copy a friend here and uh, count total devices. So in that case, what we do here is, let's see, how do we go about this? So let's just total. Let's create this variable here, total devices. Then oh, wait, total device, yeah, total devices. I think this is correct. Total devices. Then we call device dot count devices. So count devices, what we do here, we provide the list, which is devices. We provide the list and we assign everything here. So what we could do here, we print we could format it and then list of uh, available devices. We call the total device. We use this. So why do I feel like we already, okay, this is found. I just feel like we already display. I think this is what display. There we have display count. Oh, okay, that one is this display devices. Oh, right, right. One displays all the devices we have, and this one displays all the devices we have, and this one counts the amount of devices we have. So once we do this, we could just use else here. Let's see, we could just use if, if, we can just say else. So if no option was chosen, we can just use this. Even though if we wanted, we could just make it to terminate somehow, but I think this is good enough. So what we are going to do now is to try this. Since we started writing this, no test had been completed or had been done. So fingers crossed. Once we run it, we are going to find out if there are any issues and then clear up the issues before we continue again. So that's what we are going to do next. So as I was going through, I just realized that one of our functions has not been used, and it is actually like one of the most important action, functions, which is this one, to update. So that's why we are missing, because here we have about 6 options, but we got 5 there. So what we will do now, let me just quickly, we have this, we have a create, we have a display, uh, we have a, let me just quickly create update. So this one, the number might just get mixed up. So just instead of wasting a lot of time doing this, we just quickly check it. So we have 1, we have 2 to display, and then we have search, which is number 3. We have update. Update should be number 4. So this should be number 5, number 6. Then before number 5 here, let's have a number 4, and it should be Elif option equals to 4. So what we do here, I'll just copy this, and then we could just set update a device, update a device. And how do we update a device? So we can ask the user for an ID. Uh, let's call it update ID. And then we ask the user for the ID, as always. And we use here input. No. Yeah, that's correct. And type an ID to update a device. So once the user types in the ID, we check. We call um, our base class, and then call the class function. So what we do, our list of devices, and then the ID that the user typed in order to check. Oh, no, this should be, and let's print. device updated successfully, else let's print something. Device not updated. So this one is this simple also. So now we've utilized all of our functions. So what I tried to do earlier was to test. So we are going to test it. So now let's test our application and moment of truth. Because as we are writing this application, we never try to test it. So now let's test it and see what happens. So let's run it, and then let me try some of these first. So let me start from let's start before we start creating. Let's try the other functions first. So let's try to watch. Okay, we got our first error. Line 139 it is. Let's see what we've got. We got there 139, but we've got argument is there. So I don't know why it's saying missing argument. Let's see the function itself, which is display devices. Yeah, see, this is a class method, right? It's a class method, so it's supposed to have this art symbol. So let's save it. Let me clear and let's try again. Okay, so let's try number 2 again. What did we get? It says no device to display, which is correct because we don't have any device yet. So let's try number 3. It says type device ID to search. Let's type ID 1000 or okay 100. So it said that ID was not found. Yeah, because we don't have any device yet. So let's try 4. Type an ID to update. Let's try 122. Says device not found. The last one 6. Let's try 6. A list of available devices, or I shouldn't say list. Anyway, doesn't matter. So 0. So we don't have any device there. And so what we are going to do now, let's try to create device. But before we do this, there's something, just some, this doesn't matter really, but I just want this to look a certain way. So let's add a new line after each, where is it? After each attribute, let's add one new line. So the whole data is not displayed on the same line. As you can imagine, it will look quite, it won't look good. Oh, let me see. No, I didn't mean to do this here. It doesn't really matter, but let's do it where we, um, here. So that's where I wanted to do it, where we overwrote the function. So that's it. Oh, not here. My bad. There. This is not really not necessary. You don't need to do it, but it looks better when each attribute or each of the information we recorded appear on a different line, a new line. That's just the reason I'm doing this. So we have it here under the, wait, I hope, yeah, under device. No, not, what am I doing? Uh, yeah, under network, under network. So we do the same under computer. We do the same here. Again, if you leave it out, it won't cause your application not to run or not to work. It's just that I prefer the way it looks when you have the new line. We have that, we have this, and then what else do we have? I think that's it. Yeah, that's some, that really doesn't, okay. So let me just cancel this and clear a screen. Do it, do it, do it. Just, yeah, that's what I wanted to do. Okay, so let me run again. So now let's create a, oh, I hope it works. Now it says how many devices do you want to add? So now let's add two. Then type device name. Remember, okay, yeah, device name. Let's say device name. Let's say router. Device type. Let's say Cisco. And oh, wait a moment. Let's see how we made the comparison here. So it says if device type. Okay, there is a mistake here because this should be, so let me just change this. Because the device type should be either network or computer. So this, I need to change this. Let me just clear this and try again. Okay, so I'll try again. So let's go one, and then add the, how many devices? Let's say two. Device name, router, device, type device type. Oh, type device type, but doesn't matter. Okay, let's say it's network because it's network related. Then model, let's say Cisco, Cisco 100, whatever. Producer is Cisco. Okay, so because this is network, so it's asking us for interfaces. So how many interfaces does it have? Let's just go with any number. Let's say 24. So do you want to add any requirements? Let's say yes. Yes, say, let's say yes. How many requirements do you want to add? Let's say two requirements. So what do we need for our router? Maybe we need some RJ45. Enter, okay. RJ45. What else we need? Let's just, whatever comes up my mind. Let me just type, we need a hub. Whoever uses hub these days. So type device name. Yeah. So we have finished because remember how many devices I say to. So now we have filled in the first one. So now it's asking for device name. So we are starting again. So what's the next device name? Let's say that the device name is firewall. Device type is network because it's under the network category. Let's say network, and then module, let's say Palo Alto. producer model. Oh, Palo Alto. Palo Alto is not a model, but let's just leave it that way. Palo Alto, or let me just say Palo here. Then interfaces, how many interfaces do we want to add? Or does it have? Let's say it has 12 interfaces. Any requirements? Yes, let's say yes. Then how many requirements? Let's say three. So enter requirement. The first one, let's say also RJ45. Let's say cable. Let's say what else? Just anything. Mouse. Yeah. So we've added two devices on that network. So now choose an option. So what do we want to do? So let's display devices. So let's choose number two. Yeah, it displays the devices. Unfortunately, the formatting did not work the way I intended for it to work. Oh, yeah. The thing is that just look at device ID, device name, network, device name, device type, device model, device producer, Cisco, date. You see, the date was automatically generated. Another important here, remember the number, the IDs were automatically generated. And then how many interfaces did we want? We wanted oh, sorry, how many interfaces? 24 requirements. We had two requirements, RJ45 and hub. Then it has another, uh, yeah, it has then another device, network device was created. So look at this. As you can see, this first one, 1000, this one, 1001. So the more you add devices, the more it increases. I like this so much. So now, what do we have under 1001? We have firewall, network, and then Parata. We have the date was also automatically generated. We have 12 interfaces. Then we have requirements. We have these three requirements, right? So that's it. Um, What I'm seeing now is that we probably have some of these displayed twice. You see 1000 here and 1000 here. So it displayed two times. So this must have to do with, let's see, option two, display devices. Let's see the method, search, delete, display. Let's see. We look through, and then we have this. Let's see why. Um, we have this available devices. So basically, the thing is that they all displayed twice, as you can see. Let me quickly find out why. Hello. So let's now I have found out where we had why we had the little issue we had earlier. So if you remember, it happened that as when I after adding creating objects, what happened was that each object was displaying twice, right? So I have found out that it had to do with indentation. So let me show you. There are a couple of changes that very minor changes. So there are three things I'm going to show you that I changed here. One of them is necessary. The rest are like some cosmetics. So they are not important. So the first one would be here. This is line 137. So try to re-indent this line. So reindent it so that it's on the same line as else, right? So that's the change. The next one, so because this is under computer, right? So you go again on line 124, I reindent it also to be on the same line as else. So once you do, after reindenting them, you will find that all the objects you created are going to appear the way they should. That's the important change to be made. Then other ones that I described as cosmetics were like just the display of the objects we created. If you remember initially, the formatting wasn't good. So what I did was initially we had only this. Then I just went on and added more this formatting, you see, on each line. So you add this on each line and close it obviously with this, the quotation mark. So mine are 4 lines, so I have 4 lines, right? So if you have 1 line, obviously you don't need to do this. So you have to do it based on how many lines yours are. So you do this under, this is under computer, then you go on and do it also under network, right? You do this, just the same thing here. After that, it should work. Now, there is one thing else. Let me quickly, this again doesn't matter. So on line 109, I just added this part, network and computer. This is just to make it easier for user to know what to choose here, if it's either network or computer, just for readability purposes, nothing else. So if you like, you add this. If you like, you just leave it the way it is. So after this, we will go on and test our application again. So in order to do that, let me quickly run the application, and let's call it here. And then it takes out our user interface. So now what we need to do is let's go on and create a device. So let's choose option one. And then how many devices? Let's choose three. So device name, let's go router. Device type, let's say network, because that's where route belongs. Model, device model. So let's say something like Cisco 1000. And type device producer. The producer is Cisco, obviously. And then how many interfaces? Let's just say 24. And then any requirements? Let's say yes. And how many? Let's go to enter requirements. Let's say we need RJ45. We are making use of our list now. And next one, let's say cable. And then we have created one object now. So it's asking us because we wanted to create three of those. So it's asking what else do we want to create? Let's go firewall. And type, this should be under network as well. And with the model, let's say Palo Alto, and producer Palo Alto, obviously. And how many interfaces? Let's just say 36. Any requirements? Yeah, we are going to need some stuff. And how many? Let's just go 3. And enter requirements. So the first one, what should we add? Let's just go on and do the same thing. RJ45 and the cable. What should be the next thing? Let's say clipper. I believe that's what it called. The small tool you use to cut the cable, for example. So I think it's not clip, but whatever it's called. Let's just go on and call it clipper. And the device name. So now the third device, let's say what should it be? let's say, uh, you know what? Let's just go laptop and type. This should be under computer and the module. Let's say HP 5000 and producer HP and how many inches? Let's go 32 and any components. Let's say yes. And how many components? Let's say three. And enter requirement. Requirement component. This should be component, right? It should be enter component. How many components? We said three, so it should be enter component. But let's just go on. So let's say mouse and let's say keyboard. The next thing, let's say docking station. Let's say docking station. Okay, so now we have created three objects now. So what do we do next? Let's display our objects. Okay, so let's see. So now we choose option 2. We have ID 1, which is 1000, and all the attributes that come with it. Then we have a device ID 1001, which is firewall. We have a device 1002, which is laptop. So you see how, as we discussed earlier, how we are able to create IDs for each. So with these IDs, we will be able to manipulate the like to act on the objects that we created. So now that we did this, what do we do? So let me first of all, let's search. Let's use option 3 to search. So we are going to search, let's search 1001. So in that case, let's say option 3 and then type an ID to search. Let's type this. So we search for this ID, then it displays. We have here 1001. ID 1001 was found with following information. So this is all the information that we recorded related to this ID. So after that, yeah, so we are able to search for an object using our ID. So what are the options? So let's use let's count first. I know that we just did the option 3, but let's just do option 6, use option 6 and see what happens. So we have three objects created, list of available devices. So we have three objects. Uh, so the next thing, let's try this one, option 4. So option 4, and type an ID to update a device. So which one should we update? Let's update this ID 1001, this Palo Alto firewall. Let's update it. So the ID is 1001 and device not updated. Device not updated. That's not what it should say. You know what? Let's just, I'm going to find out why it's saying that. Let's try another ID. Let's say ID 1000. Let's try ID 1000. ID 1000. Oh, just one moment. No, we should first of all choose option 4 and then ID 1000. So now it's asking us to type new device name. So we want to change it. New device name, let's say Juniper, Juniper, and then module, let's say Juniper 5000. Uh, so type new producer, let's say Juniper, obviously. Uh, yeah, let's say model. Okay, yeah, Juniper, and then it says device updated successfully. So now let's check that ID. No, the ID, let's check it again. So the ID is, let's search 3 again, and then 1000. Yeah. So now this has changed from Palo Alto to Juniper. It changed from Palo Alto to Juniper, as you can see. So it worked. So the next option we need to use is option 5 to delete. So let's try option 5. Type an ID to delete. So which ID could we delete? Let me try 1000. Uh, it says the device has been deleted. So let's check. Let's check option 5 again. 1000. It says provided ID does not exist. So meaning is deleted. So now what we could do, let's just use option 2 to display what it got. So we displayed, we searched option 2. So now we have 1001 and 1002. 1002. So, so we've got only 2 now. And we've got only 2 now. So the next thing we could do, let's try and search for, let me see. I think that's it. So what we need to do now is, so I was just thinking of how to improve on this application. So what I intend to do next, I'm going to create another video where we could submit our the objects we created to a database. Because as it stands now, after, let's assume we wanted to make any changes to this application now, you will find that all the objects we created will be gone. So we will need to create more objects again, and before we could test our application. So that's not like the way we want it to be. So if we are able to create the objects and submit them to a database, so whenever we come back, we can just search and manipulate the objects the way we want. So that's why we could do that. So that would be one of the next videos I'm going to create next. I'm going to create. So I hope you enjoyed working with me on this application, and if you have any comment or any questions whatsoever, just post it, and then I'll try my best to answer. I hope you enjoyed it, and once again, thank you. Please subscribe to my video, and see you again later.